Hey guys, welcome to IB Economics, and this particular video is Unit 3.4, Inequality and Poverty. So we'll find out here what it means by inequality and poverty, what causes it, and what some of the solutions are. If you want access to all of my videos on every unit in IB Economics, then go to my YouTube channel and subscribe to that, and the access is free for every unit that's covered in those videos. So let's get one thing clear at the beginning. There is a key difference here between equity and equality. So when we talk about equality of income, we're talking there numerically, quantitatively about everybody earning the same amount. That would be equality. When we talk about equity in economics, that means fairness. It's subjective, it's normative. People will have different opinions on it. So we can't really quantify anything to do with equity. A couple of definitions. For poverty, we refer to absolute and relative poverty. So absolute poverty, there's a number of different measures on it, but we're looking at the number of people living on less than $1.90 a day or $2 a day. Don't get many of those in developed countries, but there, more importantly, is relative poverty. So if you're living in a situation where you're below the average income for that country, you're said to live in relative poverty. And we sometimes use the percentage of average income to measure that. There are some problems in measuring poverty. It's got different meanings, like we've just seen, absolute or relative poverty. You can be poor in terms of deprivations, like not having access to education, for example. There are problems in measuring poverty. People don't always tell the truth if they're being asked about it. And the other problem, the third one there, is about governments who overestimate or underestimate the poverty line. And they might do that for political gain. They might do it to access foreign aid. The diagram you're going to use here is the Lorenz curve, and you're also going to reference the Gini coefficient. So the Lorenz curve just shows you on the bottom the number of people in the population, the cumulative share, and at the side it's the cumulative share of income. So you've got a line of equality there in the middle, 45-degree line, if the axes are the same. And then you would plot the percentage of income that each quintile group receive to get your Lorenz curve. Lots of causes of inequality and poverty. So there's 8 listed here. There are AO2s. It would be an explain question on paper 1, for example. You can see what's listed there. A couple of questions in blue are sort of additional things for you to think about when we talk about, for example, inequality of opportunity. What does it depend upon? And we want to dig a little bit deeper into that. The AO3 in this section is the impact of income and wealth inequality on 3 factors. The first is the reasons why inequality lowers growth. So a number of bullet points here. Lower income groups can't invest in themselves, in human and physical capital. There's less opportunity. Wealthy spend a lower proportion of their income in the economy. That trickle-down effect doesn't hold water. We're all familiar with that. The second one is about inequality leading to low living standards. There's a certain overlap with some of these. Lack of access to healthcare. Living standards are a little bit broader, aren't they, than economic growth, the first one. So substance abuse, poor nutrition, child mortality rates, preventable diseases, like the quality of life is impacted when you've got inequality of income in an economy. And we can move on as well to the third reason, which is inequality leads to higher social and political instability. So we get a more polarized society, it's more divided, like that social glue that sort of holds communities together starts to erode away. Groups at the top have got a little bit more political influence. Policies tend to work in their favor. And it keeps the political elite at the top there. It's harder to break down inequality. People at the bottom feel socially inferior, there's unrest. And we move on to policies to alleviate poverty. We need to sort of ask the question, a second point there, about what extent should the government intervene to address the issue of poverty. We're not suggesting that intervention always means that we're heading towards equality of income, but the government needs to decide how far they want to go. And if they have made that decision, then what should they do exactly in order to achieve that? The sort of free markets view of poverty being self-inflicted is something else you might want to consider. There's a number of different policies. This main one here is taxation. So we have direct taxes on people's wealth or income, like income tax or wealth taxes, and we have indirect taxes on expenditure. You should be familiar with the fact that direct taxes tend to be better in terms of alleviating inequality. They're progressive, whereas your indirect taxes are regressive in nature. They take a higher percentage of your income as your income falls. Here's a reference to how you might show that using a diagram, as you might be expected to in an essay. So this is showing you a contrast between Sweden and Mexico, and what you might expect to see in those two countries. Sweden with the highest marginal tax rate, and they are much more likely to head towards equality than a country that has much sort of lower rates. Higher level, there's a couple of calculations that you need to be able to do. The average tax rate, which is the total tax paid divided by income times 100, and the marginal tax rate, which is the tax rate on the next dollar that is earned. So in paper 3 in particular, you might be asked questions about calculations on different tax rates. And if you can see on the screen, there's a simple little exercise that you might want to try on your own, just to check those calculations. There's a whole list of other policies. So this is AO3 again. This would be your part B of your essay paper that discuss the extent to which inequality can be solved by taxation or by any of these other policies to reduce inequalities of opportunity or invest in human capital, transfer payments, welfare payments. Targeted spending on goods and services like focus on education or universal basic income is something that some countries have played around with and are interested in. Policies to reduce discrimination, the minimum wage, and various supply side policies in general. So familiarise yourself with all of those various ways that we can reduce inequality. As I say, if you want to find out more and have access to all of my other units, go to my YouTube channel and subscribe.